Hello, everyone.
Hey, all.
How you doing today?
I see you're in the Bat Cave today, my friend.
Yeah, I got the camera exposed for the TV, so I'm going to be a bit dark.
Exciting, exciting. I look forward to it. Now, I'm only going to be able to be on for about 45 minutes, so hopefully we can get all this done in that time. How long are you
Yeah,
planning to go for today?
um, I it's going to be pretty quick to go through this review, I think. So
Okay.
after that, we'll just see how the questions are going. So it shouldn't be too
Absolutely.
long.
All right. Looking forward to it. So this is what? This is your R646 review.
Yep. Yeah, I could have either spent most of the day shooting footage, and then the next 3 days editing, and then it comes out sometime next week,
All
or
right.
do a quick stream just to run through our thoughts and show what I've found, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think there's some people talking about the flicker issue. So
yeah,
no, I didn't see it personally, but let me know how you got the flicker if you're seeing it, so I can also kind of look at that because it's
that's
definitely content, whatever specific. So if I know what it is, we can look into that too.
that's actually why I have this set up right here. I don't know about the sports flickering that
Hmm.
Greg is talking about.
Right. And is it streaming? Is it over the air? Is it through your cable box? All of that makes a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't watch sports, but I did notice flickering in dark black areas. So I got this set up. I might as well just throw that on real quick.
Okay. Is that Netflix internal app?
It's actually going through the shield. I do that so that it eliminates differences in the TVs.
Got it.
So in this area right here, when he comes through this door in episode 1 at the beginning, camera's not going to pick this up, but you do see flickering in the shadows around that door.
And that is which episode of The Witcher?
The
Or
very first episode,
uh-huh. What's the
it's
timestamp? Because that's stuff that
about 2 minutes and 40 seconds or so.
okay. So
And then there's just, as he's going through here, there's a lot of bright spots with dark areas too. And so you can just see random flickers throughout the shadows.
low bit rate bad.
Yep.
Clearly. And I wonder if it's different on Apple TV and other things, or the internal app. So that's excellent. We got to know those things as well, because this narrows the use case for a lot of people to stay away from it if they are, or maybe it's all Netflix content, right? So yeah.
Yeah, because I did it side by side with the A80J, and that doesn't do it.
Hmm.
And like I said, I try to keep it with the shield so that it's not, because if there is some TVs that have problems with their internal apps, it just eliminates that as a factor.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then the other main issue that I've found, if I can get to it, is in general, like basic TV content. So like I'm watching Impractical Jokers. Faces can look plasticky or doll-like.
Is that kind of like the high frame rate issue where things look almost fake? Is that what you're talking about, maybe?
Let me back this up. No, it's just I've only noticed it on like really like basically broadcast quality TV.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
where like their foreheads, their faces, they look like dolls, kind of.
Maybe it's like over contrasted, because I know for me, I have issues with the contrast. If it's left on local dimming high, that creates a lot of the problems for me. So going to low helps with that. What is your local contrast setting on that? Is it off or is it on high?
Well, that's another issue. I got the new update yesterday on stream with KG that's supposed to fix the settings button going home, but it didn't
Right.
fix it.
Yeah, you know what? I never had that problem until the update. So now I'm kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it
I've
made it worse.
never had that problem. And now the update, and now it goes to home. Like it goes once and then it stops, right? But that first time it goes to home first. I'm like, oh, come on, man. So yeah, it wasn't an issue before the update for me. So now I have issues that other people had. It's like, what?
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to matter which settings you use.
Right.
Again, this is really like low quality broadcast
Low
type,
call.
just
Over the
basic
is that over
TV.
the air type stuff? Yeah.
Yeah,
I got you.
so that's when I see it. Like if you're really like if you just are watching cable or whatever, you might run into this.
Hmm.
Um, so I just wanted to point that out as well. Those are the two main picture quality issues that I have. Other than even with calibration, it doesn't really get calibrated, doesn't get that close.
Right.
But that's, I mean, it's a budget TV. I don't even account that. Like, it looks finer than that. The performance for the money, the very little blooming, the black levels, the contrast, like all of that is excellent for the money. It's just these random issues that I just want to point out, as well as just the many, many, many software bugs, like that settings button.
Well, I guess for some people, they find comfort that TCL is releasing literally an update a month, if not more frequently. So if you go to the AVS forum owners forum, they are very active, and the TCL rep is actually there, right? He's kind of like, yeah, we're on it. So it's good that the actual manufacturer is interacting. I believe they're one of the few ones that actually have someone there to talk to people. Now, if he's still there anymore, I don't know, but that's something to think about as well.
Yeah. And then in the video I did release for it, I did point out that it's complicated to display Dolby Vision on the display because, as we've seen on all TVs, whether it's Dolby Bright or Dolby Dark, it depends on the show which one looks right. Because sometimes dark is brighter than bright, sometimes bright's brighter. The problem with this specifically is it seems like if it's not matched right, so like if you're using Dolby Bright and it's a show that needs to be in dark, like Sweet Tooth, it's not pushing the brightness that it's capable of. So that's why I just recommend turning off Dolby Vision with it.
How do you turn off Dolby Vision on the TCL? Is there a button where you switch it off?
I turn it off with the source. So like,
okay, that's what
I disable Dolby Vision. If it's a Blu-ray player, disable Dolby Vision, that kind of thing.
Agreed. And yeah. And if you have just generally speaking for everyone out there with a TV that quote unquote has HDR, but it's a very low nit TV, just turn off all HDR. It'll look better than SDR anyway for you, because it's just too dim sometimes.
But yeah, I don't know if you caught the stream last night. I was playing games on it next to the A80 with KG, and for the most part, it performs very well. And like I was showing how, if you're someone who wants a reference quality image, obviously the OLED is going to be better. But if you don't care about that, especially with gaming, then you can turn on dynamic tone mapping, things like that, and it makes it brighter, gives it more of that punch that a lot of people like for games. So as long as you're not using VRR, it's really good for games.
Right.
And the other somewhat issue I might as well mention is the setup. I mean, you might as well tell it to set up and then go make a sandwich and go to the store and maybe go on a vacation, and then it might be done when you're back.
Wait, what is the setup?
When you first take it out of the box, it takes forever to get set up.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Like, it's the longest process I've seen for setting up a TV. And on the 5 series, I was not required to make a TCL account, but on this one I was.
Was the 5 series you had a Google TV as well?
Yep. So
interesting.
I found that
wonder.
interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Definitely. I have I'm in the process of doing my video, but I was going to share this with you guys real quick. So let me do this real quick for you so you can put it on the share screen. I think it's kind of fun. I like doing these little comparisons for you guys. So 1 second. And it has the TCL as well. I'm hoping you guys can see it. So what is your favorite part about the TCL? Because obviously there are things that you're showing that, you know what, for this use case with a Shield and Netflix, no bueno. What about the high quality content? Either, I don't know, what would you consider high quality content? Let's start there. Stay away from possibly Netflix, but then, and which would end up being a deal breaker for many people. Actually, if you tell them to stay away from Netflix, was the internal app version of that episode of Witcher better? Is the question.
No, there's no change. And it's not stay away from Netflix. It's just turn off the Dolby Vision.
So the flickering was a Dolby Vision issue?
Well, that was there all the time, but it is minor. It's only in very dark, shadowy areas, and it's a light flicker. But I wanted to point it out because other people are talking about it. And I know other people have seen it in sports and other areas. I haven't. So that may be hit or miss on who's seeing it and where. I don't think that's really the issue. I think the issue with Dolby Vision is I would use an external device where you can disable the Dolby Vision, because Netflix turns everything to Dolby Vision, and then you don't know which show.
Right. So on the on the internal app, you're stuck with Dolby Vision. There's no way to toggle it off on the TV side, right?
Not that I've found.
Yeah, now that I found it, I was wondering. I was hoping you
Yeah.
found something.
Yep. Yep. So,
All right,
but
yeah. So
Fire sticks are cheap.
or Roku, ironically, Roku stick, right? You're bringing Roku back into Google TV. So this is the opening sequence. If you guys are PS5 fans, Demon Souls, you probably recognize this. What you're going to see is 3 TVs, the Q90A, the Sony X95J, and the subject of Classy's review today, TCL 6 series, 4K 60, no VRR on the PS5. All 3 TVs are in game mode. They're all in HDR. I try to put it in what I think is the best image for them, but they're all in game mode, so it's not like you're going to see anything crazy lag, hopefully. So there you go. All right. Try to guess which is which. I mean, it may not be hard. As you see, I think the bottom one is a little bit cooler, just a touch. And these are all kind of like default. I set it to the warmest default setting available for each TV to give it that accurate movie mode. So the center one, even its warmest setting, it's a touch cooler. Yeah, but I think the HDR is phenomenal on them.
Yeah, when you're done showing this, I have a full suite of benchmarks and measurements and stuff from Calman, and yeah, at its warmest setting, it's still too blue.
Yeah. And you could probably guess what it is at this point, because the other 2 TVs are actually calibrated. You guys all know the Q90A and the X95J Valley Electronics calibrated for me. So the bottom center one is actually the TCL, and yeah, it's definitely a little bit blue in game mode. And the other ones are all in their warm mode, and I had it on gradient preferred on the Sony so that I don't blow out some of the highlights, because in brightness, sometimes in brightness preferred, my camera was unable to bring that in totally. On the Samsung, it was on high. I could not take it out of, local dimming high on the Samsung in game mode. It doesn't matter if it's high, standard, or low. It's always the same. You can't toggle it out. I noticed that on the Samsung. So I thought it was kind of interesting, but it was good though. That was their best setting. They just didn't let you play with a local dimming. Normally you could go to standard or low, but in game mode you couldn't.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask real quick, anyone was watching, is our audio's okay? Because I'm kind of far from my mic, and when we talk, it sounds different for us than it does for you.
I know, it's not terrible. He sounds great to me.
Yeah, because I guess KG's first 8 minutes of his stream last night, he was super loud, and I was really quiet.
The dynamic range, too much dynamic. We need compression, right? Yeah. Oh, that's another thing I found with StreamYard. Did you guys use StreamYard? Sometimes they do a pretty good job of compression, but then I hear it as, oh, everyone's the same, and you guys hear the full dynamic range. You can't hear one, but you can hear the other one.
Oh, see, and there's something wrong with my mic too. If you hear this weird background fuzzing, my mic's that I need to try a new cable. Anyway, so here's out of the box. You can see just how much more blue it's pushing, and this is in its warmest setting. This was movie mode. Grayscale, like it's a budget TV, so we're not expecting a lot.
Budget. Which one is this? The 5 series or the 6?
This is 6. It's the R646.
Okay.
All measured in Calman Ultimate. Let's see. So you can
Calman
see
Ultimate. How is that different from regular Calman? Because I heard Ultimate.
It sounds so all of this stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds exciting. I hear Ultimate. I get excited.
Yeah. If you want to get, if you wanted to add this kind of stuff to your reviews or whatever, really
dude, that's what you do. That is why you are here, man. Yeah. I am not going to do redundant stuff that you're doing. Seriously, it's like, why am I double checking your work or vice versa? It's painful. This is hard work. Everyone who hasn't done this before, it's hard work. And whoever's doing it, that's it. I am not going to double check the work because, the stuff is legit, right? You got Calman, you got all that stuff. So it's great that you're doing that because it makes it so much easier for us then to look at these. Oh, look, it's showing like this extra luminance in this window. Let's test it out, right?
Yeah. So William's saying, is this budget? I would consider it budget because it's a $700 TV and it punches well above its weight if you can look past the bugs and issues that we've talked about, but its
Mhm.
raw image performance is very good for most people for the price.
That's what I go down to is for most people, for the price and the settings, I think this HDR impact, you get 100% of that impact. Now, like I said, it takes a little bit of work, but after a while, once the firmware is firmed up, a lot of people, the 8 series, I had the 8 series, and I tell you, it kept on rebooting. I had to return. I could barely finish my review because the number of reboots I had to deal with, right? 8 months later, everyone loved it. It's fine. They wish it was still on sale. So I think TCL will address it for sure.
All right, so now this is the evaluation for HDR. You can see that HDR, it really has to rely on pushing blue. And yesterday I was showing in really like the bright skies and stuff, comparing side by side with the A80. The skies were blue on the A80, but they were basically white on here. So I think it's pushing the blue too much, and then it's just losing all the color in order to
Right.
get the brightness up.
And that's what it's going for, right? People notice brightness before they notice color accuracy. Now, you guys, you're real viewers. You guys will love it. But then if you're looking at the colors that we all focus on, the Sony really does a rock solid job of that, but then you're paying more for that. But if you just want that bright pop and you're in a bar, right? Well, there you go. This is why I listed this as, yeah, you're a little distracted, you're at a bar, but it pops, it gets bright. You cannot artificially make a TV brighter. It either has or it doesn't. This has it. But then you lose a little color.
Yep. All right, so this chart right here, so this is 1,000 nits, and this is small window up to full screen. So it actually does very well of staying, like it drops to about 500-ish in the 1% window, but then it goes up just over 1,000 and kind of maintains pretty close to that the whole way. So again, that's really good performance for the money.
Mm-hmm. And for many of you wondering, wow, isn't 500 at 1% kind of like small? It's other than an OLED, a non-OLED has a hard time doing that. Unless you're the Z9J, then you could break 2,000, right? But yeah, it's not bad at all for an LCD TV.
Yeah. And then what was interesting is it took me a long time to get the color in HDR tested because for whatever reason with the pattern generator, the TV did not want to switch over to BT 2020 when it was set to automatic. So that was an interesting find. So every now and then when I'm watching something in HDR, I just went ahead and switch it from auto to native in the color gamut setting just to make sure. I haven't seen it not do it on auto in real content. It was only when doing the measurements, so shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go really in depth on all these because most people here don't know, but basically the shorter, smaller the bars are, the better. This is again is out of the box,
Right.
showing the gamut coverage. So it's just over 71% of BT 2020.
Didn't know if you covered it. Does Calman do color volume as well near the end?
Yeah.
Somewhere. Okay. Because I would be curious to see if that reflects or how good the color volume is actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then DCI P3 is about 96%. And Ratings has their color volume thing that it's relative, so it's more accurate. I got to figure out how to do that still, but it basically they're saying that the color volume is in line with the OLEDs, not the QN98. QN98 is still much better.
Yeah. The QN98 is, I have to say, that algorithm for blooming and black bars, untouchable outside of an OLED. So if that's what you value in an OLED, but for whatever reason you don't want an OLED, I tell you, nothing comes close to the QN98 when it comes to that blooming control and black bars. That is just the bee's knees. End of story. So, but that's what they're focused on. That's their strength, and I'm impressed by it because I'm seeing that, man, these other guys are going to struggle to get that right.
Like I said, the color volume, even though this is quantum dot, it's not doing what Samsung's doing. It's closer to the OLEDs. All right, so then for Dolby Vision, this is why you use dark. So you can see the EOTF tracking. It under tracks in the dark areas, and then it actually starts to over track. So this is still its most accurate. Bright is like
So can you
way over here.
tell us when you under track, what is that
It's
result
just going to
in the
darken
image? Okay, so it's a little
the black
darker.
crush.
Okay, so that's black crushing, right? Under tracking is black crushing, and then over tracking would be lifted blacks. Is that how?
Yeah, except this is actually lifting the midtones and high range
Okay,
just a hair. Like this
just a
is
hair.
good enough.
Right,
The
right.
problem though, is like I was saying, is some content, it like The Witcher, if you're watching in Dolby Dark, which is more accurate, the TV's not really pushing the highlights. You switch over to Dolby Bright, and then that's what you would think the difference in bright and dark would be. It's going to push everything, it gets brighter.
Right.
But you watch Sweet Tooth, I'm pretty sure it's a native Dolby Vision show, and that's why it's this way, but that's just a theory. You watch it in bright, and it's much darker than if you watch it in Dolby Dark.
Yep. And just kind of like a peek into the future for everyone, in about 2 or 3 years, I would say literally TCL will be one of the few manufacturers making everybody's LCD TVs. I mean, other than Sony, if they're still in the game, right? If they haven't moved to OLED already, everyone will be sourcing almost everything from TCL, and then all they have left to do is maybe a little processing. So whether we like TCL or not, they're killing it, taking over the LCD market for either from a supply side or just end user. The actual brand itself is crazy.
Yeah, so this one's Dolby Bright, and I mean you can see like that. You see how much it's lifting the midtones? That's what Dolby Bright does. So that's where your nighttime scenes look like early morning.
Yeah. And a lot of people find it pleasant. You know what? It's up. There's no wrong or right here. Yeah. Sometimes I find Dolby Vision dark literally too dark. So
Yeah,
is dark accurate? So that's my question.
it's
Is dark
supposed to be,
accurate?
but again,
Okay.
it comes back to the show because again, this is theory, but I think when they take something that was made in HDR and they convert it, that it's not doing what it's supposed to. That's my guess, and that's why sometimes bright is actually better than dark, and other times dark is better than bright. And then
What about custom?
well,
What do you do with?
there's just the AI, bright and dark, and then
Okay.
so yeah, those are your options. And AI is just gonna change it based on your ambient lighting, so you shouldn't use that anyway.
Okay.
Now that affects like even the Sony TV, like everything. What makes it worse on this TV though is for some reason, again, if it's not matched correctly to the show that you're watching, it's not gonna push the highlights. So that's why I would say just turn off Dolby Vision, use HDR, and then it's pretty much good right there. Like you don't have to worry about it trying to figure out which is better for which show. Samuel, thank you for the super chat. Does 1.9 gamma on G1 cause inaccurate picture on my panel? Trying to get as much brightness as possible. So gamma is raising pretty much everything between black and white. So the lower the number, the brighter the image. Is it accurate? Well, gamma should be set to your room. So if you're in a dark room, you wouldn't use 1.9. But if you're in a super bright room, there's nothing wrong with that.
And for gamers out there, if you're getting a little black crush and you want more detail, go with the gamma too. That also helps kind of give you shadow detail without. Everything has a trade-off. That's one, and then you have some TVs have that black shadow setting. You could play with that, but gamma is the quickest way to get a little bit of that shadow detail back if you're okay with a little bit of the lifted black.
Let's see, where is I?
And don't you hate how every TV has their own version of a gamma 2.2 or 2.3? Like one TV's 2.3 is not another TV's 2.3. So don't share settings between TV models either, people.
All right, so this was the native contrast ratio that I measured, which is pretty good for an LCD. And then
wait,
that's
so
without
what?
That's native contrast, no local dimming.
Okay.
And then with the local dimming, it skyrockets.
Yeah, actually, that 6,700 is actually very good, right? I think this year, if it's possible, Sony has the lowest native contrast ratio ever for all their TVs. Like, Sony, where are you going back? You're relying so much on your XR processing, array local dimming. It's crazy.
Yep. So, and then HDR. Yeah, and then so with calibration, so just doing basic settings in a 2-point, you can get it decent. So that it goes from a 4.1 average to a 1.3 in the grayscale. Color average of 2, down just a little bit. Like I didn't even touch the colors, just getting 2-point and basic settings done correctly. So I figured no one's going to get a TCL calibrated, so there's no point in going through the whole 20-point color management system, all of that. Just
Ever since Best Buy shut down their $50 calibration service, that is absolutely correct. Because it was $50. All my TCLs were calibrated. But yeah, it's just crazy. And you know what? They'll yell at you because, like, wait, I bought this TCL to look this way. What the hell is this, right? So they know their consumers for sure.
All right, yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much all the performance for it, all the issues that I've found. I have a video explaining all the gaming stuff and why you just don't use VRR, don't use Dolby Vision gaming, just use it in HDR. And then if you use it at 120, it's fine. It just locks you out of, well, it doesn't lock you out of some settings, just some of the settings don't actually do anything.
Yep.
Like the micro contrast, the dynamic contrast, things like that. But if you play at 4K 60, then you have access to everything, and those settings only make minor differences anyway. So,
yep. Yeah, and so to let everyone know, I mean, literally, you guys scroll back and watch that. The Q98 and the Sony X95J and even the TCL in Samsung's fastest low latency mode, but no VRR at 4K 60, it looks phenomenal and pretty much identical to the Sony and, well, the TCL colors off a bit, but they all look great, right? It's when you start experimenting with 4K 120, adding VRR, and then everything falls apart. So, yeah.
And then Ringroad's asking about motion, and yeah, that is something else I forgot. I'm not a fan of the motion because if you turn everything off, there's still some soap opera effect. If you turn it,
wait, really? There's
Yep.
some soap opera. Interesting. Okay.
And no matter what settings, so I even tried turning it on and then setting the judder to 1, which actually has less soap opera than if everything's off, but it's still enough that I see it.
Yeah.
But no matter what I do, I also see just random frame skips, and to me, that's the worst thing for motion for me is seeing frame skips. And I have not found a way to remove the frame skips. They're just completely random. Every couple minutes, I'll just see one, and it bugs me.
So we have we're polar opposites. You are sensitive to soap opera. I'm
Yep.
sensitive to stutter / judder. That's why on the TCL, I'm okay with a touch of that soap. I have mine set to, I think maybe 2 to 3, which eliminates all the stutter. But you're right, it introduces a little bit of soap, which I'm okay with, but I'm not okay with any stutter at all. So you guys have got to decide which side of the fence you guys are on. Not all these TVs have the same processing, and no one solved the stutter or judder issue without soap opera. You're going to have to deal with one or the other. Choose your poison, my friends.
Yeah, so the Sony OLEDs is the only one I found. I can have smoothness at 1, and only in very certain scenes can I see a touch of soap opera, but everything else, I don't. It looks good. It's the only TV that I use any of the motion settings at all.
Hey, you know what? Darius has a great question. I mean, I have my answer, but I'm curious what your answer is.
Generally, I just see it in all content. I mean, I do have like the Army of the Dead scene. There's a scene in Legend, or sorry, not Legion, Legend that I like. And then the test patterns on the Spears and Munzel disc and so on. But just generally, I just turn on watch roll content, and I'm sensitive enough to soap opera effect. I can tell it right away if it's there. And then judder, I'm not really sensitive to, so I have to use like the Spears and Munzel disc to even see it, or the Army of the Dead thing, because I think anyone can see that.
Right. And I thought Darius meant something technical. Right? I was going to say we use our eyes. I don't think there is a meter that I mean, there are quote unquote numbers or ratings put out there, but to me, it's almost useless because it doesn't tell you anything. When you put real content, it doesn't always match what the numbers ratings put up as, right? So yeah, definitely you got to look at content. You're all different. You all have different sensitivities, but the stuff that you listed, in addition, I love the BBC's Planet Earth 2, the cities, the birds flying around. massive amounts of judder testing there because there's so many vertical and horizontal lines going up slowly and panning right and left. And there's something flying in between that forces all the artifacts and everything. So for me, it's such a fun pattern to do. And we're definitely going to update our TV shootout at New York City with more relevant content moving forward with that stuff too. So that's going to be fun.
And that's an interesting thing too, because side to side panning, like I can see it juddering, but it doesn't really bother me.
Mhm.
Vertical panning does bother me when that stuff judders.
See?
And so on this TV,
you know what? I forgot. Now you mentioned that, and there's also zoom judder that I just saw today, where you're slowly zooming out. Like, what the hell? There's even zoom judder, right? Because they did a little too fast, and I was like juddering out, and I'm like, I'm not going to deal with zoom judder in all dimensions, up and side, right? So now you got zoom judder, guys.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So on here, if you're sensitive to soap opera effect, I think on off it's worse. But if you turn it on and set judder to 1 and try that, it seems like there's less soap opera than there is with it off for some reason. And Bella is barking at something. It's weird. She doesn't bark. Is there more natural cinema motion setting on TCL? Natural cinema motion. There's motion clarity, which is everything. Then clear LED motion, blur reduction, judder reduction.
Yep. More granular detail, but assuming that even gives you any level of granularity, but not like in the Roku TV where they're a bit more, do this and we'll help you fix it, because they don't want you playing with it too much.
So I think just it comes down to for the price range. It's what, 700 right now for the 55. It's 1,000 for the 65 and 13 for the 75. If I remember right.
That's a great price. $1,300 for the 75-inch now.
Yep.
That was a recent drop, right? Maybe yesterday, the day before. That's just boom. Okay, guys, just 75-inch TV in general. It's hard to find something under 1,500. Just anything under 1,500 of any quality. And even the U7G is a IPS, which has its own issues. So I think that's a pretty good price.
Yeah, so I was just going to talk alternatives. Again, I don't think you're going to get better blooming, black level, or brightness from anything else in the price range. But if the bugs are going to bother you, the motion, the lower quality, if you watch a lot of cable, lower quality content, I would say sacrifice a little bit of the performance and go for the X90J. It's a little bit more money, but you won't have any of those distractions or issues, and you're just giving up a little bit of brightness pretty much.
Now, what about your observation? So since we're talking X90J, and I think X900H is still out there. So for those who are really just streaming and movie watching, would you consider the X900H maybe an even better alternative to the X90J?
If you're not gaming, then...
If you're not gaming, that's what I meant.
Other than the XR processor can help out with the lower quality stuff.
Okay. Sure.
I think the local dimming algorithm is different between the two, so it's hard to say if one person's going to like one more than the other. I actually preferred the local dimming on the 900H, but I haven't seen the 900H around like just in my local stores at all. So it's probably somewhere online, but in a few weeks, I doubt it's going to be available anywhere at all.
Yeah.
So.
What about the 950H? Ratings had that interesting comparison. Since I think 950H may still be available in some sizes, they felt, close enough. Choose the cheaper one. That was their conclusion at the end. Are you in agreement with that?
I haven't seen the 950H, but I think it would be very similar to the 900 or the 90J. It just comes down to, do you want XR processing and the HDMI 2.1 gaming stuff to work?
Yeah. What Corey Hawkins, his comment about motion, aggressive motion that looks fake. That's the thing about motion that I dislike is, why does the actual image itself look, it's lost that matte look, that doll-like to me, right? So let's talk about the doll-like. Motion processing makes the image, forget the motion, the whole image looks plasticky, like fake, right? So if you capture it on a still, that doesn't look good. And so motion processing somehow affects how we perceive that image, even in still form. That's how I see it. So that's why I dislike motion processing. I don't mind the smooth motion, but that hyper detailed look doesn't appeal to me at all. If you have that soap opera motion part that's just butter smooth without that plasticky look or that hyper soap opera look, I actually might be okay with it, because I think we have to separate the two issues with it when it comes to soap opera effect.
There was one other spot that I saw something weird that I want to pull up. Where it gives that like overly processed look that just looks fake.
Mm-hmm.
That one. Yeah, it was the last episode of Our Planet, where there's a sunset at the very end,
Mm-hmm.
and just like the clouds have the sun glowing on them,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like the sky from a 10-year-old video game.
That's a great way to put it. Like, you guys still have the Nintendo. What were we 10 years ago? The Nintendo, because Nintendo has a different model for every few years, so you could almost nail the generation with Nintendo 3. Was it the Wii? Right? Would that be the Wii 10 years ago?
20, yeah, around that, yeah. So I don't know how well I gotta adjust the camera. Hang on. So these clouds, I don't know if you can tell it very well, but they just look very, very off. That whole sky just looks really bad.
What should it be like, in your opinion?
A smooth, natural look. Like this is the only TV I've seen it look like this.
So maybe it's kind of like, those if you ever have photos, you have the glossy photos and the matte photos, and the glossy ones some people love and some people hate, and some people love the Kodak matte paper. Is it something like that difference, or is it just off? I mean, is it color accurate, or
it's like
the colors are there,
fringing the edges of the clouds and like over aliasing it.
Okay.
Doing something weird. I don't know. So yeah, and what's also interesting is before this had the price drop, I would have recommended the 5 series over it. Do the price difference because they're pretty close. Now that it's dropped, it's still like the 5 series is still really good. I didn't really experience some of the bugs and issues that I have on this. So if you want to save a couple $100, you might want to start with the 5 series and see if it works for you.
Doesn't mean that the next update won't introduce new bugs.
Yeah,
just unplug it.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, I didn't see any issues with the 5 series with VRR at 60 hertz.
Was it working at 60 hertz? Did you know if it was working? Okay. Yeah. How do you know if it's working on the TCL? How do you know if the VR is working?
You toggle it on, and then the Xbox says that it supports it. But I didn't experience any of the increased input lag or really issues like that. This one, VRR, whether it's 60 or 120, reduces the brightness. It just feels weird. So Ratings took their input lag measurements, and they're low. But if you read comments, I'm talking with them, they do say that it doesn't feel right. So there's something wrong with the VRR, the way that it feels. And then it also has really bad inverse ghosting, as well as disables local dimming. So it's just too many things. That's why I say don't use VRR on anything, or don't worry about VRR unless it's an LG or a Samsung.
And I think that's the easy answer for people who are playing a game that does have VRR as almost as a requirement for smooth gaming. Don't look anywhere else. But if it's nice to have and you're making your decision based on that, Like you have a PS5, one day PS5 might have it, so it's nice to have. You can get a TV with it. Don't do that.
Mhm. All right. So does anyone have any more questions about the TCL or anything else? I'll probably be ending here in about 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes is good.
Yep.
5, 10. Yeah, guys, come on, throw in the questions. I think, what do you think about Black Friday prices? Are we pretty much within 10% where everything will be? I mean, I understand another $50 here and there, but you think there's going to be any significant like drops where, oh my God, you guys have to jump on this?
I saw the 77C1 is at its Black Friday price, 2,900. It's not supposed to go any lower. The question is, will Sony match it or try to beat it by $100? Will they even go 27 maybe just to blow it out?
They should.
Yeah. But I think if that happens, it's going to be gone in 3 minutes. So if you're interested in it, you should go ahead and buy it now and then just try to get a price match when it drops, because you're well within the time period to do so.
Yep. So one observation that both Corey and I had is the 5 series that you like so much. I didn't know if you ever got a chance to see the 625, the 2019 6 series that was only 60 hertz.
No.
So this TV, I'm convinced is that TV, because that TV, I was like, oh my God, I know it's 60 hertz. This is an amazing TV. And at the time it was like $600 or $700, right? So even back then it was relatively affordable. And I was thinking, why would they ever phase out that TV? And I don't think they did. They just called it a 5 series because it doesn't have many LEDs. It has dimming zones, but they did just well enough that it's like, this is a good TV. And I had mine calibrated because Best Buy was offering at the time. And I tell you, there were so many scenes where it and the Sony X900H, indistinguishable. You know, and I had it against the Q90R in some scenes as well. I'm like, wow, this is a phenomenal TV.
Yeah, the only like real turn off for the 5 series is if you do care about accurate skin tones and things like that. It's really off, and you have to make a drastic change to get it right, which is not something you want to do when you're calibrating. And Ratings saw the same thing on theirs. They had to make a big swing to get it to D65, and then in doing so, it didn't look right. So they had to meet like in somewhere in the middle. And yeah, so the 5 series definitely has more inaccuracy than the 6 series. And the other odd thing is I tested the 55 at 700 nits. Ratings had the 65, but only measured 500 nits.
Oh, that's interesting.
So there could just be panel lottery or just a very big panel-to-panel variance. Who knows? It's a budget TV. So
hey, it doesn't even have to be a budget TV. Panel lottery is a thing in the OLED. I think Technodad had his measured his E9 max nit was like 870 peak brightness, and this is the E9. Nothing out there was that high back then, and it's still a rarity. And he's got his Calman as well. It's like, yeah, double checked it. It's still up there. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose the lottery.
Yeah, it's just the 5 series though, it seems to have like a 30% variance, which is very big. At least according to just the couple that I'm talking about. So, but other than that, like if you were to compare a U6G with the results that I got, I would take the 5 series. With the results Ratings got, it's a toss up. I'm just trying to think of anything else like in that price range. The Samsung Q70A is actually really good in that price range. It's not quite there. It's still a little bit more expensive. No local dimming. It's edge lit, but it's solid performance, good contrast.
It's also 60 hertz panel, right? The Q70.
No, that one's 120.
Oh, it's a Q60.
VRR
right. The Q60 is the 60 hertz.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so that's why this year I like the Q70A and then the QN90A. I think everything else can be skipped.
Okay.
Other than like the 85-inch ones that sometimes switch to VA panels and whatever.
So what about people on a budget? Matthew has a super chat. PC coding monitor. Does it hook up to a PC well? What if they wanted to use this as an affordable, large coding PC?
No, it does not do 444, at least at 4K 120, so I would not get it for a monitor. Thank you for the super chat, and then thank you, Emerald, for the super sticker. Will Will the 75X95J go back to 2,500? I think I missed that. I saw the 85 is down to 3,500, which I think is a good deal. I'm sure Sony prices are going to go back to what they were, or maybe even just a touch better based on what we've seen last year. And so I don't know how much better, if they will get better, but like I said, I can see like the A80J77 trying to beat the C1 now that they know what the C1 is going to be priced at. So now that I think Samsung also is at their Black Friday prices, so Sony may try to beat them now that they know their prices as well.
Oh yeah, Samsung, and of course they released so many months earlier, so they're really aggressive now. They got their money, and now they're gonna inventory blowout. And Sony just started selling the X95J, and they're already blowing out. But the good news is, in 2022, as Sony always does, get in line to get the 75, 85-inch X95J. Those things will sell out the minute they put in their 2022 discount pricing. Just like that 950H, it disappeared before Prime Day, right? People couldn't even get the 85-inch X950H. So if you are eyeing an 85-inch X95J, it will likely sell it again in the spring sometime, early summer. Jump on it. You're going to get the best price you'll ever see in the X95J, 85-inch, by June next year, if it's still around.
Are we in agreement the 75X90J, which is 1,600, I believe, is better than a 65X95 or QN90A?
I'd hold off for an 85-inch. So,
well, they don't make the 85.
I know. Okay, so the 85-inch is like the bogus 900H from last year. But if you're going from 65 to 75, I mean, I know it's a premium, but actually going from 75 to 85 costs less. They're going from 65 to 75, in my opinion. Look at the QN90A, right? Its 85 is only a little bit more than a 75. But yeah, if you're room limited, obviously you got to go to 75. So, man, see, it's so close. What would you choose?
The problem I have with it is the X90, you have to be dead center. So if you have a 75-inch and you have a 3-seat couch, people on the sides are not going to have the same image as you.
Like, what's Dad so happy about? This looks like a normal TV. He's like, oh, it's so great. Can't you guys see?
Yeah, I mean, one seat over, it's not going to be like bad, but you're going to notice the difference. The X95 or the QN90A, they're good for a couple seats over.
And if you guys are watching a lot of black bar stuff and you guys watch a lot of movies where lifted blacks might bother you, the QN90A is just so good. If you get it, you have to go to an OLED, honestly, or stay within the Samsung flagship family. That's one of the issues a lot of people have once they get a Samsung. Those deep blacks are not reproduced well in any other TV. So I'd go with the QN90A personally myself, the way I watch it. And X95J is a close second. 75-inch is not big enough for me to make the jump in this case for me.
Yeah, I think from those options, I would probably go for the 65 X95J, and then maybe if you can move your seat up an extra foot.
Yeah.
Matthew, the cheapest 4K 120 panel that I like is the Q70A. I would say the X90J looks a little better, but it costs more. So if you're just looking for the cheapest, well-rounded 4K 120, give up on zones and just go with the edgelit Q70A.
Oh, Kieran has a great question because we always talk about PS5 being the great console for all TVs, good or bad, because it has so few checkboxes. What do you think of Kieran's question?
You want an LG OLED. Brother wants to buy a TV for his PS5.
5 Series, you think?
On a budget. Yeah, the 5 Series is really good for 60 hertz. It depends what the budget is. If you can go for a Samsung Q70A, that looks really good. 4K 120.
And it's 120. Yeah, and the VRR should be okay too, right?
Whenever they do add VRR to the PS5, yeah, the VRR on the Samsung's great. Yeah, and depending how much the X90J drops, or if you can push to the X90J, that would be a good one for it.
All right, let's see. Well, so how about this? Are you planning to have any more reviews of the TCL 6 Series R646? And if not, what is your final verdict for this TV? Because we had some balanced opinions, good, bad, but given the price that it's at and given your overall feel on it, because you've seen a lot of TVs this year, where would you place it in your recommendation?
I think the people that are watching the streams and understand that there's bugs and they're gonna have to deal with it, if they're willing to put up with that and get really good performance for a great price, that's who it's for. But for the average Joe who goes into Best Buy and grabs it because it looks good, I think they're going to get returned because they're not going to want to put up with those bugs and issues. Um, and other than that, like I said, I think in some cases I would pick the X90J over it, give up some of that performance just to have the reliability and not the bugs. But as far as performance, like just pure on like LCD performance, you'd have to go to the QN90A or the X95J to get similar.
Yep. And I didn't know. Did Crypto Color Lights offend KG last night?
Yeah, so there was just the comments got a little out of hand.
They always go out of hand. Come on, guys. It's late. If you're drinking a beer, expect to be offended, right? But we're all friends here. Yeah, it's all come back, so it's all good.
Yeah, I think he was just put on like timeout or whatever. Just so some weird things were said. So.
All right. Well, if it doesn't involve wild animals and a YouTube censorship, we're all okay.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I was playing. So normally you play games and not worry about copyright. Well, I played a little bit of Ratchet and Clank, which they happened to use that game to make the Ratchet and Clank movie. So the cutscenes in the game are the movie. So KG got a copyright for Ratchet and Clank when I was playing the game, not watching the movie.
So there is a Ratchet and Clank movie, and the sequence was exactly the same from the movie.
They took all the cutscenes from the game and made a movie out of it. And I completely forgot about that.
What a great way for Sony to get rid of people's reviews. They just make, quote unquote, a movie from all the cutscenes and just post it. I could see Nintendo doing that totally. That's horrible. All right, I'm gonna have to be careful with my cutscenes now that I just put up for Demon Souls. That could be a movie because I can see Demon Souls being a total movie.
Yeah.
Well, I have nothing further for you, my friend. That's the excellent review as always. I love the technical approach and also catching a lot of the issues that a lot of us were. Well, I didn't have it before, but now my settings button keeps taking me to the home screen. So I'm with you guys.
And that was the update to fix it. And
I didn't have it before the update. Yeah. So like we have to update because this is what we do. But if you guys love your TV, just keep it unplugged. Don't Wi-Fi it to the auto update. I mean, you might have to watch what you have to watch, but yeah. Now I have to deal with this home screen issue. Terrible.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess I don't see any other questions really. So that's pretty much it. I might try to get some Hisense stuff, but I think we're kind of past that at this point. So I got a lot of other stuff keeping me busy and got to catch up on my A80J and C1 videos coming. So.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have a lot of comparisons there. Everyone wants to know what that's like. So yeah, good job, man.
All right. So, you have any more streams in the next couple days? Anything?
Oh, let's see. Well, we're gonna Wednesday. We're gonna see. Brandon and I are doing our pass remote, pricing stream like we normally do once a week. And for me, I'll have my X95J TCL 6 series and the X9 and the QN90A, just comparing everything will be in 4K 60, guys, because my conclusion is more often than not, this will be the best image quality and it doesn't compromise on the motion so much that, I gotta get 4K 120. So I'm doing that, but yeah, that's about it. Okay. Maybe a little Kaleidoscape comparisons in the 2 weeks from now. Definitely.
Right. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna stick to Tuesdays, so I'm doing Classy Tech Tuesdays streams. So everyone to come by those. And then Preston with a last-minute super chat. Thank you. Now that Vizio has updated firmware on the H1 OLED and they are superbly priced, is it time for you to do one of your awesome reviews?
There you go, man. The gauntlet has been thrown. Get yourself a Vizio.
I may wait might wait for their next OLED attempt and maybe cover their P series or something in the meantime. But yeah, we'll see. So, and I also launched a membership. If anyone wants to join, what it's going to do is support for me to be able to do videos and not worry about monetizing and worrying about copyright. So that way I can play a bunch of movie trailers on a TV to showcase the TV without worrying about that stuff. And also do 1 or 2 private live streams every month. So if you're interested, just hit the join button on any of my videos. Yeah, and then we'll go from there. So thank you, FOMO, for coming. Thank
Anytime,
everybody
buddy.
for watching. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.